Western civilization is moving closer to a point of irreconcilable, unstable equilibrium, as frighteningly increasing numbers of people trust nothing. Media, academia, and especially the governments are no longer held in high esteem. Regaining trust is often impossible after betrayal. However, transparency is essential to any healing process, and that is the essence of the Don Sullivan Show. Please listen to the team explore, probe, and debate cutting-edge science, technology, and computing. Play ball! Again, hello folks, welcome to the Don Sullivan Show, and I am just so excited today because we have another great friend of the Don Sullivan Show, Mohan Potheri, who worked with me at VMware for a decade plus, and we are going to have a lot of fun talking about futuristic stuff that is going on in Silicon Valley, even if half the people running Silicon Valley are clueless and kind of dumb. I'm not being disparaging towards anybody who might want to stop me being disparaging, but it's totally true. And so we're here to have a good time today and to really get into the show. Remember, this is the show about science, technology, and computing. And we've, as I said last week, we have extended the parameters of what is under the umbrella of science, technology, and computing. And with that, I'll shut up for a minute, and I will once again introduce the best partner in the podcast industry, the best dude, the funniest guy from New Jersey, Mr. Jersey Steve. Say hello, Jersey Steve.
Hey, Don. Hey, Mohan. Greetings from the Garden State. Today's episode is brought to you by License Fortress, the industry's first and only software asset management firm to offer both a financial and legal guarantee at its highest level of service, whether it's Oracle, Microsoft, or VMware. License Fortress helps organizations stay compliant, avoid audits, and save money. Learn more at licensefortress.com, and please support our producer by visiting axtinc.com. That's axtink.com. Subscribe to his YouTube channel and help support his efforts to create humorous animation. And get out of that My Little Pony convention alive. Back to you, Don.
Well, you got to talk about Gina a little bit. Let's just mention Digital Sunshine.
I don't think she sent us anything yet.
Oh, she hasn't sent us the answer, but go to Digital Sunshine.
No, she needs to send us some copy.
Yep. All right, so we'll get on that
next
episode. Sorry for the awkward pause there, but what I'm going to do is introduce you now to one of my favorite people in the world, and I will tell you that Mohan Potheri and myself are in a small club of people over the age of 55 that actually have ascended to above 19,000 feet at Mount Kilimanjaro. So hello, fellow Kilimanjaro climber, Mohan. Say hello.
Hello, Don.
So tell us about yourself again, Mohan. You've been on the show before, but give us a little bit of an introduction.
So I'm a solutions architect, principal solutions architect working at a company called Hypertech now. I had a history with Don where I was for a decade. I worked with Don and VMware.
A good history, I think, for the most part.
Yep. And I really enjoy being technical. I've been technical all my life, and I'm now enjoying the age of AI.
Yeah. So, Mohan, you're going to hear me make fun of the term AI quite a bit, but what you're not going to hear me make fun of is the fact that both of us, we're just having a discussion off air, seem to be at the age in which we are nearby being able to collect Social Security. We're older. But we both see ourselves at high altitudes, and we both want to stay in Silicon Valley because we know there's so much that we can actually provide, and we want to stay in this game because, to be honest, it's all so cool. But yes, I see, you guys don't see it because this is an audio-only podcast by design. You don't see it, but my buddy Steve here is winking at me, reminding me that I have to issue the legal waiver once again because the entire law firm that we have at the Don Sullivan Show is demanding it every single time. So here we go again. All statements by the hosts and the guests on the Don Sullivan Show are the personal opinions of the host and the guest, all of who agree that the following content is the property of Analytics LLC to be used publicly and exclusively on the Don Sullivan Show and only the Don Sullivan Show, unless we say otherwise. Sounds like a Major League Baseball disclaimer, doesn't it? There.
Hey, whatever you need to do to make those lawyers happy.
Yeah, I know. We have to do that as much as possible. So, Mohan, tell us what is up with Hypertech in 2026. How is it changing the world and helping with these data center construction?
So Hypertech is currently focused on enabling the next way of AI in HPC. We are making liquid cooling mainstream. So
Oh,
we
that
are
is so
investing in a
cool. I
full.
love that
We
stuff. I sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah.
that's what we do here. I just love it, and I'm too compulsive not to interrupt you. So go ahead.
Yeah, so we are not just doing immersion cooling; we are also doing direct liquid cooling because there is a lot of momentum around direct liquid cooling, where actually you have tubes of liquid go pass over the hardware themselves and cool GPUs and CPUs in the chassis itself. So so now with the advent of AI, the heat dissipation is a huge problem, and so liquid cooling is something that's becoming mandatory.
Yeah, and
And
by
so
liquid, of course,
Hypertech is focused on that in
we don't
2026.
mean water, and Mohan didn't mean to leave out IPUs and DPUs. So Intel and AMD, you can be included to the extent you are too, because all of these chips produce a lot of heat, and that heat is extremely valuable from a commoditization perspective, from a perspective of being able to cool it so everything doesn't burn down, and be able to reuse it. Those of you who've been around this industry for a long time, not you teenagers who regularly tune into the Don Sullivan show, would remember that it could be 110 degrees outside in Phoenix, and when you walked into a data center, you had to wear a jacket because the air conditioning was down to 65 degrees to cool everything, and that was extremely expensive, and as we look at it now, incredibly wasteful. But a number of companies, particularly Mohan's, and utilizing all of this from an architectural perspective, which is, in my mind, the more compelling aspect of this, because it's actually being integrated very regularly and in a compelling fashion into all of the development of these thousands of data centers that are being built with all of these funky names that nobody knows are data centers, right? To begin with. And it's funny, I just drove past with my granddaughter at 4 years old, and we're just driving past this huge area that this big construction project is going on. It looks like it's probably a square kilometer. And I'm wondering out loud, is that somebody in Colorado building huge, 1,000 units of some kind of semi-affordable housing, or somebody building a data center they don't want to tell us about?
Gated community or data center?
Yes, we don't know
the
which,
guessing
right?
game.
But if it is, Mohan, you might know about it. And I have to start looking more carefully at the names that are in the fine print that you can barely see on the signs, and then looking them up just out of my own curiosity. So I digress as usual, but you all know that. So Mohan, you mentioned, so tell me about how the designs have evolved in this last 9 months, I think, since you've been on last. You were on 2025. Tell me about what's happening new.
So in the last year, the designs have actually flipped to a liquid first mindset. So what has happened is that now we are designing for a minimum of 500 to 100 kilowatts per rack, and which is become normal. And as you are aware from the past, like 15 kilowatts is used to be the average, and now we are going to 50 to 100 kilowatts. And also there are racks that can consume up to 150 kilowatts nowadays, and so it's kind of slowly the industry is evolving. And for that we need to have different kinds of power delivery. We need to have CDUs, cooling distribution units. We have manifolds, and then now I was talking to you about direct liquid cooling. For direct liquid cooling, the designs require cold plates. So you have cold
What's a
plates.
cold plate? What's a cold plate? Other than it sounds like a rock group from the 80s.
The cold plate will absorb the heat and transfer the core. It acts as a conductor between the liquid cooling system and the hot components, and then exchanges heat between the two.
Okay.
Metal's a good
let's all
conductor,
level
so
set this a little
that
bit.
makes sense.
You're talking about a single rack, a single 42U rack, right? That could potentially generate up to 150 kilowatts of heat or power. And so a 2,500 square foot, 4-bedroom house with 3 bathrooms and a whole family living in it is probably going to consume 8 to 10 kilowatts, I guess. So we're at about a single rack, which is the size of a European mini car can produce 10 times, 15 times your average single family big house. And this is enormous. And then you're talking about, of course, tens of thousands of them being put in the biggest data centers that we're looking at, right?
Yes, and obviously you guys are all aware of the huge super data centers being built in Texas.
Utah's bigger even right now, right?
Yeah, Utah. It's been on the news.
Kevin O'Leary's Utah one, Stargate, the Death Star and of course Larry has tried to slip the one in Michigan, which could be a huge, major political issue. But that we don't have to get into that. They're going to happen.
So my company Hypertech, right, actually has a construction wing now. They're part of the Texas build out, and we have a company called 5C. So it's a spinoff, and so we do like end to end. We can do. We self-service where I work for the wing that does AI ML servers, and then we have end-to-end construction.
So what do you do? I mean, you're like Kiewit or Halliburton trying to be like constructing the entire building or generators and all everything.
End to end. We do have the.
Did you merge with somebody who does the actual construction?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Exactly. 5C is a company that was doing data centers before, and they kind of merged with a portion, one of our business units, and then they spun off.
And people have to understand these things, the bigger ones. People see Amazon fulfillment centers all over. These things will dwarf those.
Yeah, they're massive
Amazon data centers. Oof. They really are Death Stars.
So.
Yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
So what's the most important thing if you're trying to build a modern data center nowadays, Mohan, what's the most important first principles as far as starting that process?
Yeah. So the funny part is, if you go tell the city you're getting permit from that I need use water
or the county,
they'll say
usually a county.
They'll shoot it down immediately.
Yeah, they get upset. Yep.
So there are other ways to cool. There's dry cooling with magnetic systems.
Wow, that I didn't know about. Cool.
Yeah, so those are becoming really popular because, for example, now in Texas, if I go to any city and say I want to build a data center, I'm going to create a bunch of jobs, and I'm not going to use any water. I'm not going to waste any water, right? You will be using water, but you're not. Using millions of gallons of water a day and then having
they worry about the water table drying up if there are farms, this and that. Yeah.
Well,
so that's a big thing
with Musk system in Austin, and the cliche has been going on for a long time that in that river that goes through Austin, it's the heat, the average ambient temperature has gone up 5 degrees, and they are literally boiling the fish. So
it's a hot pot.
Yeah. So. And it's not illegal because, of course, there are not any regulations around it. And, Musk, of course, will be way ahead of anybody who, once he sees the political
It's not great,
change.
though, either.
No, it's not, but it's legal.
Yeah.
And they will, once there is a legitimate effort to change the regulations, the laws and force him to change what that particular data center is doing, he will be way ahead of it, as he always is with everything. So. Go ahead. So, Mohan, let's get into a little bit of deeper technical stuff. This is something I find kind of fascinating. That we go back 10 years ago, you and I were very much enthralled with our friends in Boston, one of the 6 cities of Silicon Valley, around high-performance computing. And it seems to me that before the cartoon term of artificial intelligence was stolen from the Jetsons in the 50s or the 60s and become the colloquialism that is used to apply to machine learning, that HPC was really what we all were looking at in terms of analytics, at least in calculations. And now that term has sort of fallen out of favor, at least in terms of colloquialisms, but we're really talking about the same things, right? I mean, HPC combined with machine learning is really what we're thinking about, what the whole conversation is about. And the media uses artificial intelligence, which again, I have mocked consistently.
So
on the show.
HPC
Yeah.
HPC, ML, and AI are all very tightly related, right? But they are from separate worlds to some extent. When in the 1990s, we used to talk about AI as artificial intelligence and machine learning.
1950s, but
Yeah, all the way from the 1950s. I did my master's in the 1990s.
yeah, well,
so
remember what Pat
obviously-
used to say? It was a 50-year overnight success story, so
Yeah, exactly.
Pat Gelsinger,
Exactly. So classic HPC, as you and I are aware of, Don, are like, computational fluid dynamics, weather, we had tightly coupled clusters, the techniques where we had to perfect things like high-speed interconnects, schedulers, cooling strategies. And then now if you look at what AI and ML infrastructure needs is exactly these. So the two different worlds of enterprise computing and HPC, they've all come together because HPC can use some of the things that AI brings it, and then AI can use a lot of the techniques that have been developed over decades. And so these are all become one complete umbrella, I would say. Now AI is the umbrella everybody's talking about, and then we can call out AI as something that's HPC running data-driven workloads.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it, and I'm very enthusiastic about saying that companies that actually use the terminology of the technology and the acronyms of the technology that were established at its founding, as opposed to media-driven terminology, again, artificial intelligence. Like always say, call me when you get to artificial interaction, or at least artificial intuition. But that gives me a lot more sense of, I think it creates a lot more credibility with the company itself in terms of their technical chops, in terms of their real understanding of the needs of the industry, and then being on top of the developments are. I mean, what's particularly interesting is that literally since COVID in the last 5 years, the focus of the entire world, and that is through Silicon Valley, the 6 cities of Silicon Valley, is now in construction as opposed to coding. I'm going to write an article for Database Trends and Applications that coding itself, programming from when we were growing up, Mohan, is a completely lost art and completely unnecessary and incredibly inefficient when it comes, like, Hillary went and told all of those West Virginia coal miners that she was putting out of work to go learn to code. Well, you know what? If they did, they'd be out of work again. That was 15 years ago, because it's just not necessary.
To do electrical.
We knew
plumbing.
That 20 years ago code generators existed, and in fact, the compiler is a code generator, right? But we knew real code generators existed. We just didn't know that they were going to be natural language model code generators. In other words, you're going to say, for those of you who don't understand that out there, you literally can just walk up to a system and in your real language, whatever that might be. I'm not sure they really understand New Jersey yet, though, Steve. But you can actually walk and talk to them and say, give me a program that goes out there and calculates how much money I'm spending too much based on market principles on watches this month, which of course would be frightening to know. I don't want to know that, but I could do that. You can do that through ChatGPT. You can do that through Gemini. You can do that through Grok. You can do that through, Claude is the best in terms of programming. But once again, I digress.
It's a terminology, right, called vibe coding. So that's a new terminology.
What is it called?
Vibe coding.
Vibe coding.
Vibe coding.
Vibe coding.
Yeah,
VIBE.
Vibe coding.
Okay, for all of my pontification here.
Mohan, is vibe coding considered is that kind of pejorative, or is it just what folks are saying? It just applies to it in a neutral way.
Yeah, it is. No. It is like, we anybody can code now, right? That's the beauty of it. And
if you can talk, you can code.
I'm not a coder. I'm an infra guy.
Nor am I.
I can write code for infrastructure, but not for software, right? With this, I'm able to write code because it's all it takes is ideas.
You shouldn't even say write. You should say create, right? Correct?
Yeah.
Because you just basically
you're kind of dictating or commanding. Yeah. You're basically.
So I want to get back.
No, but I do. I
prompting
please.
is it's prompting basically. You're prompting it to write code for you.
But by nature, I guess, I always say, please, can you do this ChatGPT? So
How
it's
polite
I feel
you,
that is
Mohan.
better.
What the hell's going to happen when you actually start interacting?
No. You got to be polite to the robots.
Be polite to the robots? I don't know.
We've seen a lot of movies, Don. We got to get them on our side.
Every time I get a bot in place of a customer service person, my inner New Jersey comes out. So
that's why the bot always gets my order right at Taco Bell. The bot always gets my order right because I'm polite.
I gotta go to this Taco Bell.
You catch an attitude with these bots.
He's got a Taco Bell that seems to work. I went to McDonald's with my grandkid the other night, and I guarantee you it took 3 to 5 times as long as if I just talked to the person who barely understood English.
Were you polite? Did you say please to the bot?
Yeah.
I think these bots are messing with you because you're coming up with an attitude a little bit, maybe. I don't know.
Certainly
you offended
possible.
the bot.
That's certainly possible. All right, let's get back to the actual discussion because this is too important. Mohan, what I want to know is when we get to these materials from the perspective of the architectures, meaning the overall construction for Hypertech, from this year to last year, and also in general, you refer to liquid cooling. Now, of course, to the audience knows that doesn't mean water. In fact, it means anything but water. What kind of liquids are they? What do they consist of? Is there a name for some of these liquids that we would have to remember that exist, a patented type of name? And then how much is the capacity, the capability of those liquids accelerating, say, within the last 9 months since we've been on a call? So a whole bunch of questions in there, but tell us about these liquids mostly is what I'm asking.
So cooling is no longer about just, as you said, Don, pushing water or pushing cold air, right? We're seeing a lot of rapid innovation in what we call as dielectric fluids, right? These dielectric fluids, for example, in the immersion space are very important. Funny part is a lot of the companies that are involved with this are Valvoline, Shell, and other oil companies because they seem to be familiar
petroleum
with these
products.
Things, right? Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then they are engineered for a lot of science in that is that they are engineered for thermal performance, long-term stability. And then they need to be also compatible with the materials with which servers are built. So that's kind of what
so how much better are they than water? How much more heat can they, in terms of joules, or if you know, just a general number, or in terms of
it's a little bit
orders
thicker.
of magnitude?
It is a little bit thicker than water and lighter than motor oil.
Okay, but how much more heat can it absorb than water? And how much longer can it retain it to be able to transfer it?
See, the longer is not necessarily, when you say longer, it could mean a lot of things. Right here, what we have, this is how we measure it.
Well,
right?
water will
we have
dissipate heat immediately, is the point, right?
No. We have an ambient temperature in which water is still the conductive mechanism. It's going to conduct the heat or cold from one place to the other. So water flows through these areas, even through these liquids. These liquids, what they do is they see, most of these environments, they can have, let's say, temperatures ranging from 60 degrees Fahrenheit all the way to 100 degrees Fahrenheit that the servers can survive on, right? And so whatever your servers can handle, depending on the type of liquid you are in and stuff like that, it kind of depends. So it's not like you don't have any fans here anymore. So it's all liquid flowing over all the components. And so it's basically, there's a differential. There's like 30-40 degrees of differential that it takes away from the tank running your servers, and then that's kind of what happens over time. And the more heat you can tolerate, the less cooling is required.
The more heat the
Gotcha. That's really interesting.
Or the rack can tolerate.
Yeah,
that's certainly true. But what I'm really wondering about here is that obviously these liquids have a much greater heat capacity. I'm talking physics terms here than water itself, and because water again is going to either evaporate or it's going to dissipate the heat into the surrounding physical infrastructure of the pipes. but these other liquids, I'm trying to get an understanding of how much
So they
more
are
heat they can absorb, and so therefore it can retain and then
they absorb
transfer.
the heat. What?
They absorb the heat and transmit it off, and then they keep.
Yeah, I'm looking for an
recirculating.
order of magnitude.
Yeah, they're better
Is
at
it an
that.
order of
Okay.
magnitude? Is it 2 orders of magnitude in terms of how much more it can do? You know,
It is. It depends on the liquid and the
there's different
material
liquids
used,
and
but
so on. So we have to let's save that to another day because I really want to get into the metrics of exactly how much heat. Because I mean, you can get to a point where you can get near nuclear production capabilities here with material science.
Yeah, so what we are currently doing is primarily, absorbing way more heat than any other cooling system available, and not only that, you're able to, for example, in certain movie production studios, we have the people developing animation, right?
Oh,
Their systems are running.
The CGI.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
And they have a facility where it's actually the heat is being transferred to heat and then used to heat a swimming pool in the facility, for example.
Oh my God, Don, that's what I was talking about. Remember, we said, why don't we just put spas next to the data centers?
Yes, that's it. This is
great minds.
This is wonderful. This is perfect. That is such a great example. I hope that's in the. I would put that in a promotional video that I would speak with not only the communities, but the potential buyers of Hypertech services and construction, but I think more directly to the point, potential buyers of those products, whether or not they're using Hypertech or not. And those kind of examples are things that are perfect for this audience as well as the general public who are not. Hopefully everybody in the general public is in the audience of the Don Sullivan Show. But on a rare occasion that you're not, you should understand that as an example, that you can actually heat swimming pools in an indirect fashion.
Many of them, I would assume.
From the non-nuclear heat that is being generated by these data centers. And if you do it in areas that need that kind of capacity, such as in Tucson, or Phoenix, Arizona, where everybody has a pool, and the pools are not that even unless you're at 5 o'clock in the afternoon in August or July in Phoenix, water's still cold, and so you can heat them, and you can get that for free. Of course, it's really, I'm being a little bit fantastical here because it's really all going back into the grid, but the numbers would add up, right?
What about building a gated community? We were joking before, but why not put a gated community next to a data center
within
and leverage? Yeah, that's what I'm saying, and leverage some of that heat. That indirect heat in different ways.
Hell, Steve, you might be getting back to the company town idea. Having all the people who work at the data center actually work in a company town and getting all their energy for free. That actually is probably going to happen.
Yeah, I think it probably will.
Or not for free, as part of their compensation, as the company town methodology from the...
they'll figure out something, but at a minimum, you've got hot tubs, you've got pools, maybe there's other applications, or benefits.
So we sound, folks, in the audience like we're being silly, and we're not. We are being silly, but at the same time, we're being silly about things that are absolutely real examples. All right, I want to shift a little bit. Mohan, tell me about sovereign AI. I tried to read a little bit about that, and it seemed really interesting. We, of course, throw the term sovereign. One of the flaws in Silicon Valley is there's only about 100 different terms that get reused for all kinds of different things.
Is this like data sovereignty, or is this something totally different?
Not. Yeah. Well, go ahead. Tell me about it.
Is this a new one for me?
So it's like sovereign AI is like about giving a country or an organization control over all its AI capabilities, the data, the models, the compute, and it should be within its own legal and geographic boundaries.
So it is a little bit like sovereign data.
For example, Hypertech is from Canada, so Canada's now very much into it because of all the geopolitical tensions it's facing, and often this means building liquid-cooled AI data centers within the country rather than relying solely on global hyperscalers because right now most of the AI is being offered by global hyperscalers. You want to be able to control your data and your models and your compute, and
I
so it
see.
kind of means building your own data centers and managing the data within your own boundaries, basically.
Yeah, for example, a lot of the hyperscalers are global, but a lot of them are U.S. companies as well. And if you don't want your data or your AI reliant on something, on another country, I guess that's it's kind of a build question. It sounds like a build versus buy.
Well, it requires a different level of security implementation too.
And
Yeah.
in lot of countries like Canada and also in the Middle East and all that, sovereign AI is really popular. Even VMware is very popular in
Yeah,
sovereign
yeah.
AI because it's like a private cloud. It's a private AI cloud, so
To
it is.
the end user, does it really make a difference? It's just it's basically who controls it, I guess, and to what extent they control it. But I'm
Security wise,
assuming,
right? Security wise, you can be confident that this data is only is kind of only seen. It's not transiting any foreign nations or foreign actors are not able to access your data and
kind of
control your.
firewalling it off, basically. Yeah,
Yes.
that's interesting. But I guess the users in your country, whether it's coming from a hyperscaler or a sovereign AI site, I guess the experience would largely be the same, other than I guess what you do as far as letting folks
It could
use
be
it.
military use, right? It could be military use
Yeah.
compared to commercial use, right? So yeah.
Well, yeah.
So you see that more as private government versus public use, sovereign AI. That
Private
might.
government also, in intellectual property that you want to stay within your boundaries and stuff like that.
And Hypertech
Gotcha. That makes sense.
has a niche and basically a separate productization, big products, obviously, in this sovereign AI. I thought there was a little.
No, in particularly in Canada, because they are the highest. They have been awarded by NVIDIA to be the, for maximum number of AI systems sold in Canada. So, and also they are the only
Gotcha.
North American manufacturer of completely in North America. They manufacture all their servers. So those kinds of things. So sovereign AI is a big piece of our puzzle here. A lot of national labs and stuff and other systems like that also are you might want to call them. They are like sovereign AI quite a bit.
So on a different peripheral discussion point, because Hypertech is so like many companies, but in particular they're so all in on the construction, the building, the advancement of the data centers. Like the level of Kevin O'Leary and Larry Ellison, to be honest, has focused Oracle on.
Watches and data centers, Don.
Yeah, well, we had this debate, and we had the beginning of the news panel discussions about the OpenAI and Musk trial. And Gina Rosenthal, the great friend of the show from Digital Sunshine, is really of the opinion that there is a significant bubble out there. I'm not. In fact, I think it's going to get bigger. And I have one question about it, though. And I looked at a map of data centers being built around the United States, and it's utterly, or around North America, it's utterly staggering. And there are, as I have suggested, about 100 of these Utah level, Stargate level data centers from Calgary down to El Paso being built in the massive amounts of free space and area. And of course, water being the biggest problem. But then there are also about 10,000 apartment building sized data centers. And of course, this didn't just start with machine learning, that we have stolen the term from the 1950s, artificial intelligence. But it started with crypto mining. And it's really all about massive amounts of computing with these incredibly powerful servers combined with, or incredibly powerful chips from, the CPUs as well as the DPUs, the IPUs, and especially the GPUs. And as they are increasing, blowing away Moore's law in any real functional capacity, that is, they're just increasing in their capabilities at a super exponential rate. Mike, the question is, what does Hypertech think? Or are they mostly just customer responsive? From a advisory or a trusted advisory perspective, if you're sitting in an architectural meeting with the CEO and the CFO and so on, do you think that the smaller data centers, the apartment building size, if you can call that small, versus the mega Death Star level data centers are going to win out the day? And the reason, and Gina has a great point about this, that Moore's law, even if it is getting blown away, is still the observable truth about how chips, about how microprocessors develop, and that the processors will develop to such a speed that you just simply will not need these mega data centers in the relatively near future, because they're going to get so much faster. And we haven't even begun to discuss quantum yet, and we are going to on this show a lot, but I don't want to get into it right now, and that's going to change everything as well. But just thinking about it from a perspective of GPUs, IPUs, and DPUs, how much faster are they going to get in terms of a comparison, so that we might not need the bigger data centers, right? What do you think?
So if you look at mega data centers and smaller facilities, right, they are not necessarily opposing options. They are really complementary, right? And you look at it this way, right? Users, see, there is training where you're actually training these models, where you need massively hyperscaler size, horizontally scaled compute. And then you have users on the other end who are doing inference. So everything that you're going to have, every phone and every computer is going to be querying and interacting with these models. So there are two sides of the spectrum, right? And for you to have a low latency, the data center or the compute from an inference standpoint has to be close to you. And so the mega data centers are going to build those huge models, create those models. The smaller edge kind of data centers are still required. They'll also run GPUs, but the GPUs are used for different purpose. And so the inference part is going to be closer to the user. And then so smaller facilities are only possible. In big metros, you don't get those areas. So it's a mix. And so they're complementary to each other. They're used for different things. And both are required.
Okay. I actually completely think that makes sense. My concern is, of course, that it could easily be the case that depending on the acceleration of the power of NVIDIA in particular, that you are going to see a lot of empty space with a lot of construction on it in the relatively near future. And there's a really good point that was brought up, but I just don't think that is going to happen. Because literally, even though we look at data as being infinite right now, that every time a new model is trained, it's trained on the previous data. So it just amplifies it. And that amount of data that is accessible as opposed to what exists is increasing exponentially, as well as the power. And so maybe we will get to a point of being able to utilize that data and the processors in a real neural network fashion. So maybe we will get to the point where my sarcastic quips have called me when it gets to artificial intuition or artificial interaction. Mohan, we talked about this last episode as we tiptoe into the PG-13 area. But one of the areas in business to look at from a business perspective purely is the sex industry, the porn industry, and how well that's doing. And quite honestly, even though it's very prevalent, as Gina and I were talking about on the last episode, it's not doing that well because it's just not that effective. And the reason is ultimately that comes down to either an industry that just serves up crass and awful pictures, or it's a service. And
are you talking about like AI
yes, I am. I'm talking
generated
about robots.
stuff?
I'm talking about sex chatbots and all those things. Then it's not working out well. It's not producing content that people are buying for the same reason that the average customer service systems that call you at home, or you have to wait 3 seconds to get on a call to actually talk with when you're applying for an equity loan, aren't working either. Now, all the big wigs
aren't they
in
making
America
billions of dollars though? That's like a huge,
yes,
that is a huge market though.
It's a huge market.
No, Don,
Yeah.
Don, I differ a little bit on that. It's gotten way better than what we used to in the past. It can get you to, like, before and all, within like 2 or 3 exceptions, it'll immediately have to go to a human agent. Now, a lot of these systems are really good. The customer service systems that they
What they don't
actually
understand,
solve the problem.
and I mean, I'm from New Jersey. I have a tremendous persistence and no patience, right? But I literally am at the 15-second mark before I just start screaming, "Give me a representative," right? And start cursing at the bot. And the bot comes back to me saying,
I'm gonna find a way to trick Don. I'm gonna trick him. I'm gonna like introduce him to a person, but it'll be a bot.
Yeah.
You know, see if it passes the test.
That would be funny, and we could actually broadcast that, though, Steve. And you could make fun of me. That would be excellent. But it's
for the pursuit of science, Don.
I'm still of the belief, and I say this every episode we get into this, that the analytics are great and they are working enormously, particularly in the areas of medicine and in working models for physics and so on. It is expanding the capabilities of human, or the potential of human thought by orders of magnitude every year. Particularly in medicine, is what affects us immediately. Whereas within human service or within customer service, including the sex industry, and that is the most easy to recognize, it's not working at this point because it just simply doesn't have like the ability to get into the nuances, the interaction.
You're talking about like chat lines?
Yes, I am.
I mean, how popular is that now? Everybody's on the internet. That was popular maybe in the 80s
but
and 90s.
Chat lines,
but like,
well, it's the same thing. It's okay. So they're internet based, and I'm looking.
I don't know that anybody really.
If you look at the individual companies who produce these things, they're not making money, and the robots either. The robots they're not that much different. They look better. And I mean, I don't want to get into this discussion too much, but
the problem is, I don't know if we really want to investigate it either.
Well, this is what we do. We look at the actual, and it is, again, the top of the business world. I'm sorry, Mohan, go ahead.
So I think, guys, the next big thing is physical AI. That is robotics, right? And so you guys probably heard, I live in a city called Fremont, which is actually where Tesla's factory is still, even now, right, in the US, the main factory. It's going to be converted completely into a robot factory. It's not going to make cars anymore.
Factory. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's going to be, they're going to be making millions of robots. So it's coming. It's coming. Again,
I know that people, human workers or robot workers.
What does Elon call them? It's
are robots making the robots?
He basically stole a term from Transformers and changed
Omnibus is terminology from Jensen. Yes, it's a product from NVIDIA. But Omnibus is exactly that, right? You have digital twins. So any factory you're building, anything you're building, any equipment you're building, you create a digital twin. You kind of exercise all your testing on the digital twin. You're able to design much better because your digital twin is immediate. It is immediate. The changes are immediate, and you're able to kind of run through the digital twin much better than trying to build an actual prototype. So those kinds of things. So that's physical AI.
Yeah, it's essential.
Yeah. So,
all right. So, folks, on that note, we're going to end this episode, and I am going to, of course, invite Mohan to be on panels with us. And specifically, Mohan, I don't know what you're allowed to talk about at Hypertech, but if you get a particular win or a particular architecture that Hypertech wants to advertise in commercial format or whatever, Hypertech is totally open and invited to become a a sponsor of the Don Sullivan Show. That's another discussion,
Sure.
but I have to bring it up. But regardless, if you want, whatever you
Get
want
a
to talk
nice
about,
Jersey Steve message at the beginning of the podcast.
absolutely.
You know,
Because Jersey Steve is the best there is at this in the industry. I will say that with 100% confidence. All right. So anything that you want to talk about pertinent to this, come back and we'll get you on immediately, and we will. We might start doing these more than once a week at this point. I don't know. So,
a lot to talk about. There is a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot of really important stuff. It's really cool, and we got a lot of other peripheral or different subjects to talk about, but this is still at the forefront of humanity. As humanity collapses in one end, it's being built up exponentially in another. So there you go. So have we missed anything, Mohan? You want to add anything else before we end this episode?
So yeah, one important thing I just want to mention, the future conversation is in data centers, less can we cool this, right? More about can we cool this within our power, water, and regulatory limits? And that's kind of what Hypertech is focusing on. So everywhere there's constraints. And so if you can manage these constraints and optimize within those constraints, you're going to be successful.
Yeah, Texas is going to be very different than Maryland, but both of them are going to have the same problems to face.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, Steve, how about you? Anything else?
No, this was awesome. Thank you as always, Mohan. And yeah, we will have to get you back on because the more we talk, the more questions or things I want to talk about. So it's always good.
All right.
Thank you,
folks,
Don and Steve.
Thank you, Mohan. And folks, I have to remind you, no matter what we're talking about, whether or not it's high-end computing, whether or not it's databases, whether or not it's a cartoon term of artificial intelligence or the real terms of high-performance computing and machine learning, no matter what we're talking about, that every time you look at a situation every day, you must remember that all at-bats are situational. See ya.